Grief doesn't play fair in marriage. Your spouse may cry where you might need silence. Your spouse might need words where you might need space. God has grace for both of you, and He will help you grieve as one. My name's Brian West. This is Heart of the Father. Thank you for joining me. This is a powerful video. If it's one that you think would be beneficial to someone, please like it or share it. I invite you to subscribe. Our subscriber list is growing, and I've received a lot of really great feedback, which is very encouraging. If you want to help support, then you can do so on the Ko-fi page that's in the comments, and pick up a free 7-day devotional that has to do with loss and God's goodness in grief. Welcome again. Yeah, so this video is just about grieving, grieving as a couple. It's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's so unique and so different. I know for us in our situation that we were in, I actually almost lost my wife. She almost died, and that was its own thing. When my son was kind of fighting for his life, so to speak, my wife almost died, and I was in pretty good control of myself, and then I broke down. And when I realized that my wife was having to go to the OR, I had a complete panic attack. Like I don't panic, I've been through a lot in my life, and at some point it'll probably be something that can be talked about. But I've been through a lot, even professionally, and I don't panic. And I had a full-blown panic attack when I realized that my wife might actually pass away. I thought I was having a heart attack. The doctors hooked me up to some machines and told me, Brian, you're just having a panic attack. And I was like, what? This is what everyone talks about when they talk about having a panic attack. It's terrible. So there was that, then, we're two very unique people. We're two unique people, and we process emotions and information differently. And we have a lot in common, and we're unique in many ways also. Very different in many ways also. And so I have seen other families and other marriages not make it through the experience of the loss of a child. It's not something to be taken lightly. Make no mistake. We know this, don't we, on this channel? The effects of loss are nothing less than the intent of devastation generationally. And marriage is one very vulnerable place. My wife and I are very close. We've always been really communicative, and we perceive ourselves as one flesh. We have so since we determined to become man and wife, is just to take on this perception of, hey, this is, we are one flesh, This is, I do to you as I would do unto myself kind of idea. So we're really communicative in that way. And we've been through a lot. We have been through a lot. And we have had moments of refinement where we had, there would have been opportunities to become distant, but instead, because of pressing into the Lord, those opportunities became opportunities to draw closer. And that's kind of a little bit about us and our relationship. When we lost our son, I knew that we would both be in different places. Not because I was, judging my wife, but because I know that people are different. I've seen what happens to different people in situations of high pressure, just from my background in the military. military, and then even afterwards. But I've seen that people who you would never think, by looking at them, become heroes. And people who are supposed to be heroes curl up in a ball. I've seen that. And so I know that people in different situations respond in unique ways. My wife is very strong. She's very strong. She has a very strong character. She has a supernatural gift of joy. She feels a lot. And she also felt our son in her for full term. So she experienced the life we lost in a way that was unique, that I cannot understand. Men and women, when they're going to become parents, they actually, there's a lot of research into this, but we know that mothers become, very maternal and we talk about, creating the nest, making sure everything is cared for and things are clean. And I think that there's less research on what happens to men when they're expecting children. I think it's just assumed that men are on the sidelines watching as women change. But I can tell you, I had a very heightened sense of security. And I know that because of what the work that I've done, both in, military and also in the intelligence community, is so I can tell when my feelers are out, so to speak. And I found that the closer that we got to whenever we have our daughter, and we were expecting, of course, our second son, and so I could tell that I was becoming more alert in terms of security. And we've heard of I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard this. Forgive us if you've never heard this, but they call it mama brain, because their minds are so connected on what they have to do for the baby that they kind of memory kind of slips, and they kind of forget to do different things, or around the house or whatever it might be. But it's no different. I mean, there is such a thing as daddy brain too, and it's because the attention is so heightened on security, and I just don't think that there's been enough kind of research or observation to that. I think there should be, but my point is that we both had an experience with the baby that we were expecting. It's a different experience. It's a unique experience. I never felt him move inside me like she did. Though, in communicating with her, I was able to understand, his little personality and all of these kind of things. So when we lost him, in loss, is particularly with children and with babies specifically, it's as if your heart is growing to give to this new life. So for that to be suddenly removed was suddenly existing with this full heart of something to give and nowhere to put it, if that makes any sense at all. And so we each had that going on in us, on top of the fact that we both are different. We both have kind of, in many ways, different personalities. And so when it comes to grief and marriage, I think that being aware that there will be differences in the way that grief is processed is probably the biggest blessing. That revelation was the biggest blessing that God gave me gave me in my ability to understand how to be a husband in the aftermath of this. It's just being aware that she would be in a different place than I was. And I think that that's fair across the board. In other words, some of these things are unique to myself and my wife, but that, I think, is going to be universal. You can take that to the bank. In your marriage, if you experience loss, it is a fair assumption that your spouse will be going through something in a unique way, different than you. And so I remember knowing, I have to be intentional about our communication, and I have to be intentional about receiving feedback, receiving the observations that she gives through this process, and to be humble in that. And I've talked about this before in the two other videos I have, the aftermath as a father, part 1 and part 2, that I was responding in my grief in a way that manifested in a shortness of patience. So I wouldn't want to say temper. It's just that I didn't have as much patience because that my energy was gone. And I think that patience requires both humility and some energy, evidently. And I just didn't have energy anymore to have such a robust depth of patience. And so what that meant was that I was much shorter with everyone around me. More, terse, brusque, so, and that had its own challenges. There were times that I wanted to leave and times that I didn't want to move. Let me say that differently. There was times that I wanted to go work or go do something, and times that I didn't want to get out of bed. And I know that she felt the same way because we would talk about it. And we would talk about the balance, because with us, I do in my personality have a tendency to be destination oriented. And my wife has a tendency to be journey oriented. And if you were to take either extreme, if you were to focus only on destination in life, then you would have no real value of journey. And that's not a good thing. If you were to place emphasis only on journey in life, then you would never go anywhere. So we balance each other with that. Well, those aspects of our personality also came to play in mourning. I had a tendency to want to move forward, and she had a tendency to want to stand still. And we, in our communication, which had to be very intentional, it had to be very humble, we were able to understand that about where we both were and how to lean on each other for when one was either moving too quickly or when one was moving too slowly. And so I would say that was really key in how we, how we processed what happened. We prayed together. Sometimes she would, because I wouldn't be able to. Sometimes I would, because she wouldn't be able to. We prayed. We prayed when we could. It was very tough early on, as you can imagine, as you may know. I think that the combination of those things has enabled us to catch a vision for the new trajectory of life, and certainly brought us, we have learned more about each other, and it has made us, our relationship is even, the connection that we shared has become even more strengthened, I would say. Strengthened. try to pick the right words for all these very complex. I may do another part 2 on this, but I think for now that's a good place to speak to, and hopefully that brings some insight into how we were able to certainly initially navigate the experience of loss, and how we were able to really keep our eyes on the Lord and allow Him to kind of transform the experience into where life was headed from there. And hopefully that's a blessing to you. Thank you for joining me on this video. If you have comments, please feel free to leave them. You may be blessing someone who's going through it right now. And with that, I'll just say the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and He saves, rescues those who are crushed in spirit. God bless you and keep you. I'll see you next time. Thank you.